Dawn of the Hunt is nearly here, and I gotta say, there is a lot to unpack here. I took notes during the live reveal. Let's just jump right in with some highlights. So of course we've got the Huntress coming. One-handed spear user using both melee and range. A lot of interaction between the melee and range in the same builds. And then interactions between twisters and elemental damage types. We also got the buckler coming with the Huntress, which includes parry and retaliate mechanics, follow-up strikes. And then we've got bleeding interactions, which we'll talk about more with the ascendancies. And then there's taming beasts. Wow, what a reveal there. Tons of possibilities, essentially any beast in the game, one at a time, and the beast will keep the mods. So trying to find those ultra rare beasts will become important. The Huntress comes with 22 new skills and 2 ascendancies. One of those ascendancies is the Ritualist, which specializes in those blood interactions. You can also equip an additional ring for 3 total rings. We then have the Amazon, which is your more traditional spear using elemental damage fighting type of class. On top of those 2 new ascendancies for the Huntress, we've got 3 additional coming. One for the Warrior, Smith of Katava. This is your master blacksmith, where you can forge your weapon, animate copies of your weapon, and enhance your armor. With this ascendancy, you cannot wear armor with mods. You have to wear a regular armor without mods and spend your ascendancy points to essentially craft a custom piece of armor. Next, you've got the Mercenary Tactician. This is your support, buff allies type of class with additional CC. They highlighted that projectiles can pin, and then pin can stop enemies from performing actions. Seems pretty powerful. They also mentioned that they, in general, they were buffing the crossbow, which is the least used weapon in the game currently. Finally, we've got the Lich for the Witch. This is your Chaos and Curse specialist. You can apply additional curse, and you can cause cursed enemies to explode. You can also sacrifice your life for ES and buff a jewel using part of your soul. One drawback to buffing a jewel is that if your energy shield equals 0, your mana costs are then 50% more. So they're adding skills to the game as part of this patch, and 2 of which they highlighted. One very interesting one that I'm sure many are very excited for, Raise Spectre. Just about any mob in the game can now be raised and act as your minion. This costs spirit, with bigger, rarer, more powerful specters costing more spirit. So it's a balance between bringing an army of specters versus bringing 1 or 2 specters. Then we've got Summon Roa. The Roa would fight by your side, but additionally you can mount the Roa and ride into battle with your spear or your bow, and while attacking mounted, you're moving at 100% movement speed. However, this comes with a drawback. If you get knocked off the mount, it looks pretty bad, as you can see. GGG is introducing 100 new support gems. I'm not going to go over the support gems in this video. We're going to save that for the patch notes. They highlighted several in the reveal video, which I do recommend you watch. We are also getting 100 new uniques in this patch. I'm not going to go over any of the revealed uniques. However, their focus was on mid to end game. This is all goodness, as build diversity was an issue in the current patch. By introducing potentially build defining uniques for the mid to end game, we should see that build diversity strengthen in the next patch. On the crafting front, they are introducing rune tiers in order to allow runes to scale with the player throughout the play experience into the end game. They're also adding new types of runes for more socketed options, one of which was highlighted as Marion Wisp talismans. These are essentially a new mechanic that will be introduced in Act 1, but also include an endgame map. You follow the wisps, and if you defeat the modded rares at the end of this map, you are rewarded with specialized runes that you can only get from these wisps. We're also getting a new crafting mechanic, recombination. This is tied to expedition. Essentially, you merge 2 items together to roll for the best mods from both. Failure can destroy both items. We're also getting fractured orbs, a new currency. These orbs are used to essentially lock a modifier so that it cannot be rolled. Overall, for crafting, we do see continued use of RNG mechanics. We do get the ability to lock one modifier, but that is essentially just improving your RNG odds. So we are getting more RNG on top of RNG. This may be an area of further improvement as the community is really looking for more deterministic options, especially that solo self-found community, which is really at the mercy of the RNG gods. A lot of focus on the end game here in patch 0.20. Overall, the idea was to bring in more content, more random encounters around every corner, more activities, more rewards, and to reduce busy work. With that, they've added 7 new maps and 10 extra Atlas points associated with those. They highlighted some of those maps, one being the Asmarian Ranges, which we discussed earlier for the wisps and the additional runes. And we've got the Feral Megaliths, which is a 10 boss gauntlet encounter. There are new runes exclusive to this map as well. And then the Fractured Lake, where all mobs are mirrored, including rares. And at the end, you are rewarded with a Broken Mirror, which is a new base type of ring or amulet. Finally, we've got the Crystalline Cavern map, which is heavily tied to the essence mechanic. Powerful boss surrounded by rares, and you essentially juice the boss for greater risk and greater reward. There are 4 new greater essences associated with this map. We're also getting Rogue Exiles, which are random mini-boss encounters. These rogues are actually decked out in player skills and gear. This gear can be unique, and these uniques can drop on the ground should you kill the rogue. If you don't, they will leave and take all the gear with them. We're going to see new unique strong boxes. There are 3 total. In the preview, we got a glimpse of Ogham's Legacy. This is a strong box where you defeat a modded rare over and over with added mods in order to get the loot. To improve agency over the end game, they are introducing a new introduction to the end game and an overall purpose where we are supposed to be cleansing corruption caused by the beast. Corrupted maps have an end boss that you defeat in order to cleanse the area and gain Atlas points. Once you cleanse, the maps around that corruption will become essentially new maps with new monsters, new bosses, and a chance at fractured orbs. With the patch, we are seeing major changes to towers, overall reducing them by 1/3 of the amount today, making them more powerful and allowing the player to add more tablets and more mechanics to the maps in the vicinity of the tower. Overall, this reduces the amount of tower management required in order to juice your maps. Overall, a very good thing. Another major change to maps, they now have a respawn modifier that reduces the amount of portals that you will see when entering a map. This reduces the amount of chances you have to run the map. So by juicing your map, you essentially have to be more careful as you run it and to ensure that you can actually complete it, as you will have less chances to do so. As part of that change, players will now be able to respawn into a map where you left off at a checkpoint rather than having to start at the beginning of the map. Additionally, pinnacle bosses no longer remove or have a penalty to experience, but you will also no longer gain experience from pinnacle bosses. Pinnacle bosses will now drop Twilight Order reliquary keys. They can drop from any unique in the game. Pinnacle bosses can drop at any difficulty now. So this gives you more chances at that unique loot. All uniques in the game can be found in these Twilight Order reliquary chests. And finally, they are also adding unique map tablets. One highlighted, you can now run any map without connections when using that specific unique map tablet. To round out the video, we have other notes that I took down during the Q&A. All updates will be in Legacy League and in the new Restart League. This means that you can essentially play all of the new content with your current characters if you choose to do so. However, they do recommend and are encouraging a restart. That's what I'll be doing myself. GGG discussed at length during the Q&A that there was a heavy nerf hammer across the board. Stat stacking was mentioned by name, so we can assume that many of the other S-tier builds right now will be seeing a nerf. One thing is they are trying not to make it so that casual players cannot get powerful, basically saying that the nerfs are targeted at the end game, not during the campaign. GGG mentioned that armor is being looked at for future changes. However, this patch will not include major changes to armor. Stuns and ailments have been reworked to be more impactful against the player, to entice more decision making in the passive tree and with gear in order to build around stuns and ailments. Overall, Dawn of the Hunt is shaping up to be a massive patch, especially for an early access game. Super exciting. The 5 new ascendancy trees are out. My next video will focus on those, and we'll be looking out for the patch notes so that we can decide what to do for a league start. If you like this video, please do subscribe and like. It does help. See you next time.